In this video, we'll be sketching the graph of a cosine function. We'll be following the guidelines for sketching graphs of sine and cosine functions. If you've not already done so, press pause to copy these guidelines into your notes. When you're ready to continue, press play. The problem that we'll be working on is to sketch the graph of y equals -2 cosine of x minus pi over 3. We'll need to compare that to this equation. So let me write this a little bit differently. We have y equals, and then notice that I don't have anything added to this part of the equation. So c is 0, and then plus a cosine. So our a is -2. And then b is the coefficient of x factored out. But since our coefficient of x is 1, we don't have to worry about that either. So b is 1. And then x minus pi over 3. So our first step was not necessary. B is 1. On step 2, we're asked to find the amplitude. Now the amplitude is the absolute value of the coefficient of our cosine function. So absolute value of -2 is 2. So our amplitude is 2. But we need to notice that this is a negative cosine curve. So we'll note that it's a negative cosine curve. Then let's find our period. Our period is found with 2 pi over b, and b is 1. So our period is just 2 pi. Our vertical translation is the c value, and we had 0 for c, so there's no up or down translation. Our phase shift is the d value, and that is the number that's subtracted from x, so we have, since this is a negative pi over 3, we have a phase shift of right pi over 3. Our third step is to draw in the guidelines. We have no vertical translation, so our center line is the x-axis, and we have an amplitude of 2. We want to go up and down 2 units. Our center line is the axis, and we have a max at 2, and a min at -2. Our next step is to find the beginning x value. So we'll start at a positive pi over 3. And then we want to divide the period into 4 equal parts. Our period is 2 pi divided by 4 gives us pi over 2. So we'll start at pi over 3. And then our next value, if we take pi over 3 and add pi over 2, we get 5 pi over 6. And then if we add pi over 2 to 5 pi over 6, we get 8 pi over 6. And then add pi over 2 to this, we get 11 pi over 6. and then add pi over 2 to this, we get 14 pi over 6. I'm going to go ahead and change this one to 2 pi over 6 so we can have a common denominator. So we're going to need to go up as high as 14 pi over 6. So if I make each of these halfway marks sixths, this is 1 pi over 6. This is 2 pi over 6. 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6. So we're ready to do our graphing. Our starting point is at pi over 3, which is 2 pi over 6. And it's a cosine curve, but it's also a negative cosine curve. So instead of starting up here at the max, I'll need to start down here at the minimum line. So we have a point there. Then our next point to plot is at 5 pi over 6. And so from the minimum, I'm going to hit the center line. And then my next one is the maximum, which is at 8 pi over 6. And then the center line at 11 pi over 6. And then the minimum guideline at 14 pi over 6. Now if I wish to continue to the left, my center line is going to be here. If I take 2 pi over 6 and subtract pi over 2, I'll get negative pi over 6. And then I can hit the max here at negative 4 pi over 6. So our curve